Hey guys, let's talk about tonight's episode of How to Get Away with Murder. And the endings of these episodes are always so good. So at the end of last week's episode, we saw Annalise stripped down in a very, very powerful scene. She takes her wig off, she takes her eyelashes off, she removes all the makeup off of her face, and she's just sitting there in front of a mirror. She looks extremely broken. She turns to her husband and she says, "Why is your penis on a dead girl's phone?" And that's how the episode ends. And in tonight's episode, we pick up right where we left off with that conversation. And it's pretty intense. And again, nothing has changed. Annalise looks just as she did in the end of the week before. And Sam has to defend his actions and why, and answer the question if he had an affair with this girl. And he admits to it. He said it was going on over the summer. They hooked up about 6 or 7 times in his office, in her car. She was a sad girl. She was having issues at home and all this stuff. And Annalise says to him, you know, "This is how you like your mistresses, sad and broken." And he basically says, "It's not like that. It's not like you and me." And so we find out that Annalise and Sam got together through an affair. So he cheated on his first wife with Annalise, and you know, old habits. So yeah, Sam is not one of the good guys, but neither is she. So that's one of the things that, you know, is very complicated about this show, is that she's no angel either. She's been hooking up with her detective friend who she goes to see again later on in this episode, and he basically tells her, "I lied," and that Sam didn't have an alibi. He wasn't at Yale when the girl died. So now, of course, Annalise is freaking out even more. And she confronts Sam by the end of the episode, and she asks him again if he was at Yale, and he says, "No, I was here." I cannot remember her name. Why can't I remember her name? But she basically was threatening to kill herself pretty much, and he came back to see her, and then he left and went back to Yale. But he was not obviously a part of her murder. And what was very interesting about this scene was she tells him, she meaning Annalise tells Sam, that he's going to do a psych eval on Rebecca to see if she remembers, knows him, if, I think her name's Lila, if she admitted to Rebecca who she was having this affair with. And because obviously Rebecca has seen the penis on the phone, so has Wes. And so he starts, you know, interrogating her, asking her all these questions. And, you know, you can tell he's digging pretty hard, and she doesn't seem to know who he is. Even when she first meets him, she doesn't have this look on her face like, "I remember who you are." Of course, later she asks if she can use the bathroom at the home. And of course, this is when she puts 2 and 2 together, that she recognizes the wallpaper from the photo, and she freaks out and she leaves, and Wes goes to her empty apartment, the door's wide open, and he calls her. He's like, "Where are you?" And she's like, Did you know all along? Are you in on it?" And she's like, "You can't trust Annalise." Oh my God. And she's like, "Look at the wallpaper." Of course, he goes to the home. He breaks in. And he goes to her home. Annalise comes out of her bathroom. She's freaked out. She's covering herself. She's like, "What are you doing here?" He's got a hoodie on. He turns. He's like, "You lied to me. You know, your husband is the one in the picture. He's Mr. Darcy." And that's what, I think Lila is her name. Sorry, guys. This is bad of me. She called him Mr. Darcy. And so, yes, Sam, a.k.a. Mr. Darcy, is the penis man. So Wes knows. Annalise now knows that Wes knows. Rebecca is running off somewhere because she's freaked out that Annalise, she believes, is in on the lie that, I believe that Rebecca believes that Sam probably killed her. So yes, very intriguing. One of the things we find out through flashbacks in this episode is that, you know, one of the girls who has been working with Annalise and the gang, she is now sleeping with Frank, or she slept with Frank. She cheated on her with her boyfriend, or cheated on her boyfriend with Frank. I mean, who on the show is not a cheater? I think it's safe to say that everybody is doing some serious frisky business. So yes, that happened. We found that out during the reveal, and we saw that in the very opening episode that Frank had called her phone, and Michaela had seen that Frank had called her phone, so she calls her out on it, and this is when she reveals to everybody that she's been sleeping with Frank and cheating on her boyfriend. And by the end of the episode, her and Frank kiss, and then she runs off to go have sex with her boyfriend. So a lot of craziness going on. Again, you know, the stuff that's going on with the students hasn't really been very compelling except for Wes, and Connor was a little bit more low key in this episode. You know, we're slowly getting to get some more backstory on all of these guys and what they're willing to do and how they're willing to manipulate to get things done. And obviously, the case of the week ends in a mistrial because there was some nullification that the jurors found out information about. And because of that, a mistrial happened. And the case of the week wasn't that compelling, in my opinion. It was about a young boy who murdered his father, who was a police officer because he'd been abusing his mom, but nobody on the police force believed it because they didn't believe that he was actually abusing the wife. So, you know, it was a case of the week that was just fine. One other thing that happened was when Annalise found out that her husband wasn't at Yale, she also found out that her lover was fired from his job, and she puts two and two together that Bonnie, who was her assistant, is the reason why he got fired, because last week when she went to the police chief and said, oh, you have another suspect out there because your officer was checking underneath Sam's car and blah, 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 blah. So you need to give me the whole interrogation tape. So Annalise calls out Bonnie. Bonnie's standing there all like kind of, you know, cowery and scared. But, you know, Annalise is terrifying. She can be really cold when she wants to be. She can be really flirty when she wants to be. But she's definitely a woman that you don't want to mess with. So a solid episode. Case of the week was kind of just okay for me, but the ending, once again, very powerful. Every week we're getting a little bit more unraveling of the story. We're now, I believe, 6 weeks ago. So everything that we saw in the flashbacks happened 6 weeks ago. And we're obviously going to get closer and closer to how Sam ended up being murdered and who actually did it. And, what happens when Annalise finds out. Maybe she's the one who did it. Who knows? But I did like that at the end when Sam goes, I need to know if you trust me. She's like, the one thing I do know is you're a liar and you can go sleep on the couch. Hilarious. Anyways, all right, guys, let me know what you thought of this week's episode, and I'll see you next week.